Okay, class, so today we're going to be working with an investigation that involves reactions in Ziploc bags. So what do you think will happen if we put calcium chloride, baking soda, and water in a bag like this one? Courtney.
It'll explode.
Ooh. Guess we'll have to see. Emma, do you have any predictions?
I think it'll melt the bag.
It'll melt the bag. Oh, I hope not. That would be messy. So today, like I said, we're going to be working with this. So, we're going to be doing it a couple times. For the first one, I'll walk through it with you guys from up here as you do it. So first, who's our getter in each group? Everybody raise your hand if you're the getter. All right. So the getter can grab one of your bags off of your table and go over to the chemical storehouse and wait for instructions over there. Okay, so first you're going to find the calcium chloride, okay, and you're going to put one level scoop, just like I am. So make sure it's flat on top, and then you're going to put it in the bag. Awesome. Now we're going to take the baking soda and do the same thing. Just flat on top like that, and then we put it in our bags. And then on your way back over, you can close the bag, pushing all of the air you can out. Just like I'm doing, you can push it against your belly, just like Emma. That's a great way to do it. Just like that. Push it out. And then the starter of each group, raise your hand. Awesome. So you guys are going to take one of your syringes on your table. You're going to take one of your syringes on your table, and you're going to fill it to 50 milliliters out of one of the cups of water. Sometimes they're a little tricky to pull, just use your muscles. Awesome. So then, let's have the getters of the group just open a tiny little spot just so the tip of the syringe can fit through, and then hold the bag because it's a little tricky for one person to do both parts. All right, so when I say go, not yet, but when I say go, the starter is going to push the water in as fast as it can, and then the getter is going to close the bag. Okay, go. All right, and then we're going to close the bags really quick. And then everybody in the group can take turns just shaking it really gently, holding it. Make sure you're keeping in your mind all the observations you're making about what's happening in the bag. So we're thinking about what it looks like, if it has any smell. Probably not because it's in a bag, right? Do we hear anything? Different observations that we're making as we're passing it around our groups. All right, so in my bag, I see that it looks like there's some air happening. Anybody else in their groups have that in their bags? Raise your hands if you do. Yeah? What else are we noticing about our bags as we do this?
It's definitely bubbling.
It's bubbling, yeah. Can you hear it?
I think like a fizzy noise. Something.
Yeah. There's air in the bag. And if we think back to when we put the stuff in, there wasn't any air in the bag, right? So now there's air. All right, we're gonna have everybody in their groups label their bags. Just for this one, put a CC and BS for calcium chloride and baking soda. Just we'll label them beforehand. Yeah, so we can see the reaction goes on for quite a while, right? Just a side note, if we had done this after the other previous ones, they would be able to compare it to what had happened when they put the stuff in the cups too. But this one, we're just doing the bags right away. That's part of it. Awesome. So let's set that aside onto a desk that isn't having any more supplies on it. And let's move on to our next one. So this one, I'll just tell you what to do, but I won't do it with you this time. So similar to what we did. So for this one, we're going to flip-flop our getters and our starters, so everybody gets a chance to do different things. So our getters are going to grab another bag and go over to the chemical storehouse. Okay, so for this one, we are going to put 1 scoop of citric acid, level scoop, so the same flat top of the scoop like we did last time. All right, and then we're gonna put 1 scoop of baking soda as well. All right, and then you can come back over and close the bag, push all the air out. Before we do this reaction, what do we think is gonna happen now that we have a different kind? Do we think anything different, or do we think it's gonna be the same? Do we have any predictions?
I think it'll be the same.
Think it'll be the same? Courtney, will you the same thing?
Yeah, maybe some more air.
Maybe more air. Okay, so let's try it. So the starter for this one can grab the syringe and fill it with 50 milliliters again of water. And then, yeah, the gator can prepare a little spot for the syringe to fit in. Awesome.
There you go.
And then everybody will get ready, and I'll say go. All right, go for it. Okay, and then we're closing the bag really quick. Okay, so what are we already noticing about this reaction?
A lot more air.
Mm-hmm.
Little spillage.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Drop of water.
Whoa, yeah, that's a lot.
Wow.
What about speed? Was it the same speed as the other one?
No,
It's
definitely
really
faster.
fast.
Faster, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
How about different things about how it looks? Is it a different color
I
than
think
the
the
previous
bubbles
one?
are bigger.
Yeah. I feel like it's like clearer than the
Yeah.
other one.
It's more white.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, the bag is almost ready to pop almost.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of
Yeah.
over,
Mhm.
and that one took a long time.
Yeah.
So how about we grab our bag from the last one we just did, just so we can compare what they look like now, even though. See, yeah,
Yeah.
one
This
of
one's
them is
definitely more white.
white and one is clear. Yeah, like Emma said.
This one's still going.
And the first one, for some groups, might still be going too. You can hear the fizzing happening. And different air amounts too.
Mhm.
All right, and then if everybody can grab their trophy and label it. Careful, make sure you don't poke the bag open. And this one is citric acid and baking soda, so CANDS. Awesome. All right. What do you think will happen if we do this experiment with all 3 of the reactants inside?
I feel like I feel like nothing will happen.
Maybe like medium air in
Like
it.
in between?
Yeah, not as big as the last one, but not as small as the first one.
Also, what do we think? I just used a word that we technically haven't learned yet, but you guys already knew what it meant, right? Because we've been working with these. So what do we think a reactant is?
I think it's what made the air get into the bag.
So when 2 chemicals are reacting, right? So the different pieces to the reaction, that's what, and the chemicals are called reactants. But one thing that we don't know yet is that only chemicals that actually react are called reactants. If they don't react, they're just chemicals. So, what were the reactants that we've used so far?
There's citric acid.
Calcium. Wait. Calcium chloride.
And then what's the third?
Baking soda.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome. So we're gonna flip-flop our starters and getters again, and then we're gonna do it with all 3. So the getters can go grab their bag and go put 1 scoop of each thing in the chemical storehouse in the bag. And again, these are level scoops, so they're flat on top. All right, Yep, and then we're closing them. Getting all the air out. And then our starter can get the 50 milliliters of water in the syringe. And our kiddos can prep that little hole for the syringe. And what did we learn last time? The hole has to be big enough so the water can all fit through, right? Because it's coming in quick. Okay, go for it. All right.
Wow.
So what are we seeing about this one?
It's pretty quick again.
Yeah. And I think it's louder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely louder.
Yeah. I think it's quicker too.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like the bag's already pretty full.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like already.
Like
You
this.
can't really squish it anymore.
Oh yeah. Wait, it's not good, alright? It's playing big.
Yeah. Okay.
So that one had more air, right? Yeah, you
Yeah.
can pull out your other ones and compare them to that, see what the difference is. Yeah, so the first one still is just a little bit of liquid in the bottom,
Mhm.
right? Not much air. The second one has a little bit of air, but the third one is
This one
looks like it almost might pop.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The second one is really clear still, but the third one is kind of white and like it's a mix of
Like
the.
in between
Oh,
the
yeah.
two.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, this is really
Cool.
dense.
So this is the point in the lesson where we would have the kids pull out their journals and they would write their observations as they're going. Obviously, we don't have journals. But this is the point you'd have them pull them out and keep observing.
It does get colder.
It does.
Yeah. Like feel it.
Oh yeah.
And this
water's
one's
not that
colder,
cold,
yeah. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
this one's really
And then
cool stuff.
so here, I'll see what I'm doing. All right. So while we're waiting for our precipitate to form, we're going to share some of our observations that we've noticed, even as we're watching the reactions now that they've kind of finished, right? So different things are happening. What are we noticing?
I think this one, the baking soda and citric acid one, has definitely gotten bigger than when we first thought it was done. Like the bag has gotten more air in it. So.
Yeah, then in the, oh my gosh, the citric, nope, calcium chloride in the baking soda, we noticed that it's kind of separating the reactants and maybe the water. You can see that on the camera. So I didn't know if that's just what happens with those reactants, or we didn't mix it well enough. And then for a while after we would keep shaking it, the reaction would keep happening. It would be fizzing, but that just stopped.
Yeah. So another observation I made that was when we put the reactants with the water, all three of the bags got colder, like a lot colder than the water actually was. So
Yeah.
Why do we think that is? I actually have no idea, but why do we think that is?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because like some reactions get
Yeah.
warmer. I
Because the
think, but-
molecule is
yeah,
moving. But
Yeah, because they're moving. But I
that
wonder
makes
why it
sense
got colder.
with this.
I don't know.
Interesting. We'll have to research that as a class and find out.
Further.
Yeah.
Further research. Are there any other specific observations that we've made?
I noticed that the calcium chloride and baking soda one is white, while the baking soda and citric acid one is clear. But so is the one with all three of them.
Yeah,
So
they're
I
not
guess I
white.
don't know why that one's white and this one is clear.
What happens
Oh,
if you
whoa.
shake that one up?
Yeah.
Does it mix back together? Is it just like separating?
Yeah, it mixes back together.
So maybe the
But then after
baking
it settles
soda-
for a while, it
yeah,
separates.
then it separates. So I don't know. Maybe that's part of it.
Maybe the
Because there is no.
citric acid is what makes them
Like
completely
yeah.
combined.
Yeah.
Soluble.
And was that one clear? No, they were both white. When everything was white. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so now we're transitioning back to the precipitate. So, what do you guys think of when I say precipitate? Anything that you think of? Even
Even
if you-
sounds like precipitation.
And what's
Mhm.
precipitation?
Rain.
Yeah, different
I
things that
think
come from the
of,
sky.
the rain on the grass in the morning.
Yeah. So different water things like that in the water cycle, right? That's what we learned about last unit. So what do we think that precipitate might be in chemistry in like our experiment? If we're waiting for it to form, do we have any predictions we can make about that?
I don't know.
Maybe like water on the sides of the bag.
Maybe like condensation, you're
Yes.
thinking? Okay. So let's look at it and see if anything has happened.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so what are we noticing about this one?
Oh.
It is way puffier again, right?
Mhm.
There's like little
But still.
white chunks
Yeah,
that
there's little
form.
chunks down in that corner.
So what do we think? Do we think the precipitate is the stuff on the outside? Do we think it's the water? Do we think it's the chunks? What do we think?
I think it's the chunks.
Me too.
Yeah, so a precipitate is, you're right, it's the little chunks. In this case, it's like a little chalky substance. But in different reactions, it can form different things. Sometimes it's just like a little bit of cloudy water at the bottom and then it forms. But a precipitate is when a reaction and it's different reactants. What's a reactant? Anybody remember?
The chemicals
The
when
chemicals.
they react.
Yep, the react. So the different reactants, when they react together, they form a precipitate sometimes, and that's an insoluble material so it can't dissolve inside this water or whatever else we have inside it, and so it all collects as we wait, and it forms down at the bottom of whatever we have. So in this case, yeah, it's the little chalky substance, but sometimes it's different. It just looks cloudy, like I said, or sometimes it's bigger chunks. And if we waited even longer, we'd see that more was forming, and it might be bigger chunks. And we'll wait as we move on to math next. We'll come back to it after math and see if anything else is different to finish up your observation journals. But yeah, that's what a precipitate is. Tomorrow we'll work with our chalk from part 2 that we used, and then this part precipitate too with vinegar, and see if we can find more reactions that work with that. So get ready for that when we come back tomorrow. But yeah, do we have any questions about precipitates or reactants or anything? No? Awesome. Okay, let's set this down. All right, so for cleanup today, the getters are going to take the 3 bags for their group and put the solutions, so the water and all the reactants, down the drain in the sink, very carefully, making sure we don't spill anything. The starters are going to take any of their other materials, so the syringes and if we have any extra bags or any extra cups of water, you're going to take those and dump any water in the sink, and put everything else where it goes. And then after all groups are done with that, we're going to, as a class, work together to clean up the chemical warehouse and just wipe off all the tables to make sure we don't get any chemicals in anything else for our classes after this. And then we'll move on to our next subject.